story begins during the festive season of Christmas in a picturesque Spanish countryside. Manuel, a meticulous and introverted lawyer who owns a solar power company, is traveling with his wife Julia. They are heading to Manuel's sister Belén's home for a holiday family gathering. There, they are joined by Belén's cheerful husband, Mario, and their energetic young son, Carlos. The family celebration is warm, filled with traditional Spanish holiday fare, laughter, and cheer, but a subtle tension underlies Manuel and Julia's interactions. Julia, who has always longed for a family, has been urging Manuel to reconsider his reluctance to have children. Manuel, ever pragmatic and cautious, struggles to reconcile Julia's desires with his own fears and reservations. As they drive home that night, the festive mood turns somber as their conversation takes a serious turn. The couple's disagreement grows heated, with Julia pleading for Manuel to open his heart to the idea of parenthood. Their argument distracts Manuel, and in a tragic instant, the car swerves off the road, colliding with a barrier and flipping into a ditch. Manuel survives the crash with minor injuries, but Julia does not. The loss is immediate and devastating. Manuel's life, once structured and stable, is plunged into chaos and grief. Fast forward 1 year, and the man Manuel once was no longer exists. He retreats into himself, shutting out the world. Living alone in his remote home in Galicia, his only companion is his loyal cat, Loureiro. Manuel has severed most connections with the outside world, maintaining only sporadic video calls with his sister Belén and nephew Carlos. The once vibrant lawyer now spends his days in a haze of guilt and sorrow, haunted by memories of Julia and the life they could have had. While Manuel drowns in his personal grief, the world outside begins to spiral into chaos. A mysterious and highly contagious virus, named TSJ, emerges in Europe, spreading faster than any government can control. At first, the virus seems like a typical outbreak, but reports soon reveal something far more sinister. Those infected do not merely fall ill, they transform into ravenous, mindless zombies. The Spanish government works to suppress information, fearing widespread panic. Official broadcasts are vague, offering reassurances that the situation is under control, but independent sources leak horrifying footage of infected individuals attacking others with feral brutality. The streets of major cities become battlegrounds as military and police forces struggle to maintain order. Manuel, wrapped in his own despair, initially pays little attention to the growing crisis. It is only when Belén's family is evacuated to the Canary Islands, a region rumored to be safe, that Manuel begins to grasp the magnitude of the situation. Hoping to join him, he prepares to leave Galicia, but his plans are thwarted when the Spanish government abruptly seals all borders and declares a state of emergency. Determined to survive, Manuel fortifies his home, turning it into a makeshift fortress. He barricades windows, stockpiles food, and limits his movements outside. For weeks, he watches from his window as the world around him collapses. The once bustling neighborhood is now eerily silent, save for the occasional distant screams and gunfire. One fateful day, Manuel ventures out to gather more supplies. As he navigates the desolate streets, he stumbles upon a horrifying scene. A man, clearly infected, savagely attacks 2 police officers. One officer manages to shoot the attacker, but not before being bitten himself. Within moments, the bitten officer succumbs to the infection, his body convulsing and twisting unnaturally as the virus takes hold. The transformation is terrifyingly fast. The newly infected officer, now a zombie, lunges at his partner. The second officer, realizing he has no choice, turns his gun on himself, ending his life to avoid a similar fate. Manuel, paralyzed by fear, hides behind an abandoned car, watching the scene unfold. This marks the first time he fully comprehends the monstrous nature of the virus. 2 weeks later, Manuel's isolation becomes increasingly untenable. His food supplies are nearly gone, and all forms of communication have ceased. Belén's voice, once a lifeline through video calls, has been silent for days. Desperation drives Manuel to venture further into his neighborhood, where he encounters Gabriela, an elderly woman confined to a wheelchair. Gabriela, despite her physical limitations, is sharp and resourceful. She reveals that she stayed behind during the evacuations, unable to leave her home in time. Manel initially hesitates to trust her, but the two quickly form a bond, pooling their knowledge and resources. Gabriella informs Manel of a radio transmission she picked up, a message urging survivors to head to the Arousa estuary, where boats are evacuating people to the Canary Islands. Manel sees this as his last chance to reunite with his family. Gabriella, however, is skeptical. She worries that the journey will be too dangerous, especially given her condition. Nonetheless, Manel insists on bringing her along, devising a plan to use a small boat he and Julia once owned. The next morning, as Manel prepares to fetch Gabriella, he discovers she has taken her own life. She leaves behind a note, thanking Manel for his kindness but explaining that she didn't want to burden him. The loss is another blow to Manel, but it strengthens his resolve to escape. Manel sets off with Loureiro, dressed in a diving suit for protection and armed with a speargun. The path to the docks is fraught with danger. The streets are teeming with zombies, their grotesque, contorted forms moving with unnatural speed. Manel's heart pounds as he carefully navigates the shadows, avoiding detection. At the docks, the situation is even more chaotic. Larger boats have either been stolen or destroyed, and the remaining vessels are overrun by desperate survivors and zombies alike. Manel narrowly escapes an ambush, using his speargun to fend off attackers. Finally, he finds an inflatable dinghy and sets sail under the cover of night. Out on the water, the sense of relief is short-lived. A group of armed Russian sailors intercepts Manel's dinghy, bringing him aboard their ship. Led by Captain Ushakov, the sailors are a ragged, hardened group of survivors. Among them is Viktor Prichenko, a former Ukrainian pilot who quickly befriends Manel. Viktor reveals that the Canary Islands have been placed under quarantine, dashing Manel's hopes of a safe reunion with his family. Despite his mistrust of the Russians, Manel agrees to help them scavenge supplies, knowing he has little choice. Manel's time with the Russians grows increasingly tense. He witnesses them looting and exploiting other survivors, their ruthlessness evident in every interaction. One night, Manel sees a group of refugees arrive, begging for help. By morning, the refugees are gone, and Manel notices the Russians rifling through their belongings. Desperate to escape, Manel tells Viktor about a helicopter at a hospital in Pontevedra. Hoping to use it to flee, he convinces Viktor to accompany him. However, Ushakov's men grow suspicious of Manel's intentions, leading to a violent confrontation. In the chaos, Manel and Viktor manage to steal a motorboat and flee, but Viktor is gravely injured. At the hospital, they find the helicopter gone, but the building is not deserted. Inside, they meet Lucia, a courageous nurse, Sister Cecilia, a protective nun, and 3 terrified children. Together, the group forms a fragile alliance. When Ushakov's men track them to the hospital, a deadly battle ensues. The group is forced to flee into the hospital's underground boiler rooms, where they are ambushed by zombies. In a heroic act, Cecilia sacrifices herself to buy the others time to escape. Reaching the rooftop, the group finds another helicopter. Just as they prepare for takeoff, Ushakov and his men arrive, leading to a final confrontation. In a desperate gamble, Manel unlocks the gate to the rooftop, allowing the zombies to flood in. The undead overwhelm Ushakov's men, and the group escapes aboard the helicopter. As they approach the Canary Islands, their hope turns to despair when Belen's frantic voice comes through the radio, warning them to stay away. Fighter jets streak past, signaling that the infection has reached even the supposed safe zones. Apocalypse said, "The beginning of the end masterfully blends heart-pounding action with poignant emotional depth. It explores themes of grief, resilience, and the moral complexities of survival in a world where humanity's darkest instincts are laid bare." Manel's journey is one of transformation, as he learns to confront his guilt and rediscover his purpose amid the apocalypse.